Hello everyone, this is Joanna the Medium. Thank you so much for coming back. These are going to be your messages for the month of November 2018. I want to give you a couple of things before we move on to the messages. First and foremost, thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing me to do this. My intention is always to give you helpful information that will allow you to know yourself deeply. So whether it is something to think about or something that will allow you to do things differently, or I give you a suggestion or idea, Spirit is here to help you to understand yourself better so that you can have freedom and more choices. Whatever signs you're listening to, whichever is your sign, sometimes you'll be guided to see a sign that doesn't belong to you, and you will find that the information there also applies to you. The way I work with my team is I try to bring information that is of most relevance to everyone in all life, including practical knowledge and practical advice. What I'm trying to say here is listen to your other signs as well as signs you normally wouldn't listen to but you are drawn to. Also, this month, for some reason, I recorded two messages for Gemini. I don't know how I did it. Never have done it before in the last 2.5, 3 years. And I've done them on the same day. It's almost as if I had amnesia. So you will notice that there is a Gemini reading 1 and Gemini message 2, video 1 and video 2. Listen to both. For some of you, both will apply. For some of you, one will apply over the other. I was asked, what do I do with this now? And the suggestion was given to me that I release both of them. So if you're a Gemini, consider this as a bonus month for you and see which one applies to you, perhaps both. And of course, for any messages that you are looking for, or any inside information on your personal life, these messages are general. You're welcome to connect with me. That information is down below for you. More than anything, I thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing and for sharing. I always am so grateful to be able to do this for you, and it is what brings me a great joy. So thank you so much. If you would like to comment how these messages apply to you, I would love to read them. I wish you best of luck. Take care of yourself and see you soon. Let's move on. Hello, beautiful Taurians. These are going to be our messages for the month of November. I'm doing something different with the sign of Taurus because it's also my sign. I try to do whatever I can to remove myself from the messages. So I actually have most of the cards I have down, so I don't know what they are. So it'll be interesting to see what comes up. All right, let me tune in. First and foremost, my wish with these messages is to give you information that will ultimately help you become the true you. Whatever that is for you, it is meant to help you recognize yourself. It is meant to help you be empowered. It is meant to help you be the person you are underneath all the crap that we carry. In other words, whatever you get from this, my aim or my intention is to give you words of encouragement and messages from Spirit that are aligned with your highest version of you or your highest potential. So with that said, I also want to say that I felt a sense of excitement. I felt a sense of excitement because I felt like I was ready to go and fly. So does that mean that some of you are going to learn how to fly? Perhaps. Perhaps you're learning how to fly a plane. Perhaps you're going to be a pilot. I don't know. This is for some of you. Metaphorically speaking, for the majority of us, it is about coming home. It is about feeling of arrival. But this is more arrival within yourself. Yes, it can mean arrival at a destination, but this is something inner that I am feeling. I also saw a vision of a superman or a superwoman exposing their chest, ready to be seen. And there's obviously, whenever you see a vision of a superman or a superwoman, they're very powerful. They're very empowered. They believe believe in who they are, because if they didn't believe in their powers, they wouldn't be able to do the things you do. And obviously it is a metaphor. So what this is symbolizing to me is that many of us are arriving at a point of recognition within ourselves that will help us feel like the magnificent person that we are. Empowered, uncluttered. I keep seeing the vision of a superwoman. A lot of it is also, thank you, a lot of it is also about regaining your feminine power. Now, whether you have male or female, it makes no difference. We all have both. It just males have predominantly one and females have predominantly another. So if you are a woman, perhaps it's time to own your femininity. Perhaps it's time to express your feminine power, whatever that would mean to you. If you are a gentleman, if you are a male, perhaps it's time to connect with the feminine aspect of you. The feminine aspect is much more passive. The masculine aspect is much more go, go, go. It's action oriented. Now, this brings me to the idea of giving and receiving. And I feel many of you have been struggling with the fact that you don't believe in yourself, and therefore you had difficulty with receiving, whether it is financial assistance, whether it is abundance of all kinds, whether it is health, relationship, whatever it is. Abundance to me means many, many different things, including happy family. There has been some difficulties experienced by many of you at certain points in your life. So the image of having the superwoman or superwoman being shown to me and ready to fly, it is also about exposing yourself. What do I mean by this? It is allowing yourself to be seen, whether it is the true you that comes out of a shell, whether you come out with your gifts and you expose yourself, or whether you allow yourself to be vulnerable and visible at the same time. Those are the energies that I'm tapping into. I also want to say, be proud of yourself. For being proud of yourself is a sign of you loving yourself first. Some of you may think or feel that being proud of yourself is very ego-based. Well, depends on to the extent of your proudness. A healthy being proud of you is a loving act of loving yourself. There is nothing wrong with saying you've done well. As a matter of fact, it is important that you acknowledge you for your accomplishments. It's a very healthy way of being. So the message I'm seeing here, it's important to stand proud and tall and to express yourself accordingly. I feel many of you will be coming out of hiding. And whatever that means to you, I don't want to go into each individual case, but whatever that means to you being in hiding, that you will experience, or you might start experiencing over the next little while, particularly with skills and gifts, particularly as they're related to the throat. Throat is all about communication. Perhaps it is something, perhaps you wanted to sing and you're now going to find opportunity where you can express your voice in some creative ways. Perhaps some of you are learning how to use your voice in meaningful ways around a commitment. So this is also about expressing your feelings and emotion. The expression box is being highlighted here. Now Taurus is ruled by the throat, that much I know. So if you're a Taurus, chances are you might have some stuff around suppression, emotions, talents, gifts, ideas, yourself, your truth, whatever that is. So that is what I'm seeing first and foremost. But the feeling I have is one of excitement. Now, The animal that comes up for you, this is the only card that came in a way that I was able to see it. You have the snake. The snake is all about completion. The snake, you'll notice in this picture, the snake bites its tail, symbolizing life and rebirth. So many of you are experiencing death and rebirth. I meant death and rebirth. Snake is a symbol of life cycles. It is a symbol of shedding the old skin. It is a symbol of coming full circle. That's what I want to say. And it has to do with ultimately with our own power. And if this is the case for you, if you have been struggling with your own sense of power, chances are that in the month of November, you will be beginning to see the manifestations of your hard work. Now I'm tuning in. There's a discomfort that I'm getting in the back of my neck. It's also on my shoulder blade. It's on my left side. It could be for some of you on the right. I don't know if this is tension for you, but notice if you're getting some kind of discomfort, and I feel for some of you it's stress. For some of you, you need to change your pillow because your pillow is causing you this discomfort. Okay, so that's going to be for some of you. So the snake card is amazing. I also want to say many of you are coming full circle emotionally speaking. In other words, you are coming out of a very long emotional cycle of struggle with a certain aspect. It has to do with empowerment. And like the Superman or Superwoman, you are ready to show yourself off. And I don't mean this in an egotistical way. I mean this in a I am proud of me way. I think I already said stand tall. I also want to say that when the snake sheds its skin, momentarily it becomes blind. Therefore, it's very vulnerable to the outside. We talked about vulnerability in my first message. So there's an element of you allowing yourself to be vulnerable as you come full circle. Whether it is being vulnerable to be seen, whether it is being vulnerable to be heard, whether it is being vulnerable to reclaim the true you. And vulnerability is, I'm going to say it differently. Vulnerability is the epitome of strength. For when you are strong enough to allow yourself to show your vulnerabilities and be okay, I don't feel there's any greater strength than that. Now, obviously, I'm not saying stand out in front of the crowd with no clothes on. That is not what I'm saying. I'm being funny. Okay, so completion is what I'm feeling for many of you, many of us. Now, what is your responsibility in a month of November? This is the card that I have not seen yet. You have the card of compass. So your responsibility on the month of November is to listen, to be guided by your intuition. Your intuition is the greatest source of information you will ever have. There is no person, no knowledge, no book, no subject that is more comprehensive and more all-knowing than your intuition intuition. The only problem is that we don't often have access to the full gamut of what our intuition has to offer. So in the month of November, your responsibility is to be guided by your intuition. It is your responsibility. Whether it is making choices, whether it's making choices, whether you are being guided to start something, whether you are being guided to certain situations. Point is, your intuition is extremely important in the month of November. I don't know why in November, but it is very important. It's always important. I also feel like for many of you, your psychic activities or psychic phenomena will will be up and down. What do I mean up and down? For those of you who are already working in that capacity, whether it's psychic, whatever you want to call it, you might have extreme highs and then a bit of lows. For whatever reason, it has to do with the moon. Why does it have to do with the moon? There's some feeling of an unpredictability with your psychic awareness, and maybe that's why it's important for you to listen to your intuition. Now, intuition is also psychic, but I'm talking about extreme awareness. So for those of you who are practicing in some psychic way, you might find yourself having access to some pretty interesting information. This could mean that some of you are tapping into different realms. I've never talked about this before. This could be that some of you are experiencing out-of-body experiences, which is something that I, have in as my next thing to take to work with. Whatever it is, for some of you, it's your psychic vision will be amplified. But this is not just for those of you who are working psychically. This is for all of you. It's just those of you who are working in a psychic, somehow psychically, you might have profound moments of clarity. So your responsibility in the month of November is to listen to your intuitive voice. It is also, let me just tune into it. In the month of November, it's also important to take time for yourself on a regular basis. The upcoming season is a holiday season in the United States. I believe you guys have Thanksgiving in November. So there is a lot of running around and perhaps being busy. You are being urged to take regular time outs from your busy schedule and tune in. Just because I think there's so much going on for many of you. So that's your responsibility. The next message you have is delusion and control. So this card symbolizes things you may want to look at. So delusion and control, that is a fairly straightforward, what's the word I'm looking for? Not straightforward, self-explanatory, but I will tune in to see what this means. For some of you, the control is around your career choices. Let me tune in. Some of you are trying to control the way your work is supposed to be or the way it's going. So if you are working for somebody else, you may want to feel more in control, but you can't for whatever reason. If you are struggling with the fact that you do not have enough control, you may need to look at what that symbolizes for you. I'm hoping that's going to make sense to some of you. For those of you who own your private business or your own business, particularly if you're with somebody else, notice if you don't have propensity to want to always be the one in control. If that's the case, though having that quality is useful, if you are stuck in wanting to control, there will be another underlying reason as to why. For others of you, if you feel like you always need to be in control, you need to recognize what is driving that for you. In other words, what is the fuel that is driving your need to control? Control or needing to be in control is based on the illusion that we have no control. And it's usually because we haven't had control at some point in our lives. So the message here, which is interesting about the intuition, because intuition is not about logic and it's certainly not about control. So in the month of November, you are being urged to let go of your controlling ways. Perhaps if you have your own business, you are trying to make things a certain way and it's just not working. In which case, the message may be for you, let go of the control and see how it unfolds. Or another message could be, notice what it is that you are trying to control. Notice what is so important that you're needing to control. Once you know what that is, find another way of dealing with it, which is easier said than done. I realize that, but it's really important for some of you to hear this. Some of you are dealing with control issues in your relationships. And if that's the case, that usually stems from the fact that somebody is not in an empowered state. And remember, we are coming full circle. We're shedding our old skin. We're coming to an end of a chapter, an emotional chapter with certain struggles. So empowerment here is huge. If in fact you have some challenges around control, whether you feel you don't have enough control, whether you are a controlling freak, whether you want to control everything, whether you want to control every little thing around you, whether you want to always appear in control, examine what that is for you. Chances are it is stemming from something quite unhealthy, as in some fear-based belief, and it's time to look at what it is. The starfish is staring at me and I'm being guided to talk about this. Whenever I see the starfish, it always tells me that there is a focus on outside and often on superficial. For some of you, you may be controlling your environment by the way you look. So what would that look like? You may have some rigid structures around you in order to appear perfect in a certain way. If you have the need to be perfect, you will have the need to control. Why? Because perfection is about making sure that we get something, but it also implies we don't have it now. So it stems from a negative pattern, negative thinking. For others of you, I want to say for others of you, stop destroying yourself by thinking you're not enough. If you struggle with a self-concept of not enough, you may have a tendency to control your environment by always appearing a certain way or appeasing people. If that is the case, that is always control. That's also control. It is you controlling or manipulating your environment in order to be safe. And although safety is something that we all want and wish for, when we are based in our thinking of fears around safety, then that's when it becomes problematic, because we become very rigid. We become very restricted. We become often quite controlling. So for those of you who need to have control, who have or are being controlled, that's also important. If you're in a relationship where you're being controlled, that is definitely not you stemming from an empowered space or an empowered place. There's a need for you to address this. Now, what is your advice? I do not see this card. Let's see what it is. Yes. So Wheel of Fortune. It's an end of a cycle. It is in upright position, which tells me there's a favorable outcome to whatever it is that you are dealing with. It is also saying to me that it's the end of a cycle, but the end of a cycle is marked with a very profound and very positive situation. So I feel like many of you are coming out of struggles. I feel many of you have felt suspended. This could be about you, about relationships, about career, suspended in whatever area. And you have been feeling the proverbial hangman idea. But I also feel that many of you have taken the time while being suspended to see yourself and see things from a different perspective. If that is the case with you, if that is what you have been dealing with or addressing, that is a time of celebration, because you are coming to a point where you will feel much more empowered. Now, it's not like a switch goes off tomorrow and all of a sudden you wake up and you feel empowered. You may. Generally, that's not how it works. Generally, you start to feel little things that make you feel, and then they begin to feel amplified. You will begin to feel that more often. Then you have the Nine of Pentacles. So to me, this is an attainment. To me, it has a lot to do with physical attributes of our life, whether it's financially, whether it's health-wise, whether it is in relationships, things that we can feel and touch. I feel like there is a successful ending to a difficult situation. For some of you, you may have struggled with a career, and you've made some choices where you've made a move, and as a result of you're addressing your fears, you are very shortly going to come to a point where financially you're going to feel very rewarded. Anytime we face our fears, and I mean anytime we face our fears, anytime we stop resisting, we start attracting more abundance. Why? Because as we all know, fears restrict. When we are restricted, we can't be open to receiving more. I think I've said this on many different occasions. Is there anything else that I need to tell them? Okay, that's interesting. Take care of your gallbladder. I don't know how you would take care of your gallbladder. That's a message that maybe it's just for one of you. How would one deal with gallbladder? What would that even mean? For some of you, if you have some abdominal stuff going on, just look what are some of the symptoms of gallbladder. Like you may have, can you have a taxed gallbladder? I don't know. I'm going to have to look it up. What is gallbladder for? It's a sifter. Is gallbladder something that filters toxicity? I actually don't know. I'm going to have to look it up. If that's the case, I don't know who this is for, but just if you're having some challenges with some pains and aches, just look up gallbladder and see if anything makes sense to you. That's not going to be for very many of you though. It might be for 2 of you, but somehow it's important for me to impress on this. Is there any other messages, please? Stop drinking alcohol. So this, you might be controlling your emotions by drinking. You might be controlling your emotions by smoking. Anything, obviously, that's done to excess is a red flag. So for those of you who have a tendency towards overusing in order to submerge your emotions or not deal with emotions, it can also go with overeating. There's a need for you to address this. Anything else? I don't know why I'm being shown red beets, as in the vegetable red beets. I know they're really good for blood. If you're listening to this and red beets kind of stand out to you, just research this. I don't know why I'm being shown this. It's for some of you. I feel like some of you need to eat more red beets or eat or drink red beet juice. Interesting. I'm going to have to look that up. Notice if that has any connection to the gallbladder thing. And I feel that's all I have. I also feel I was just being shown a door. I had a key, and a certain key opened a certain door. That always tells me it's an opportunity. So I feel like in the month of November, you might have choices or decisions around opportunities. Could be career, could be relationship, could be a project, could be anything. Opportunities is the word that's being shown. I also feel that you have been working on this or for this for a long, long time. For many of you, a long, long time. So there might be some opportunities that will open up to you, but it's not because they just kind of came out of the blue. It's because you have been working hard on yourself, and as a result, you're attracting this to you, and it's under the umbrella of abundance. So it sounds to me like some of you might be getting some boost in money. Well, we did have Nine of Pentacles, so that's really good. And is there anything else? May is coming up, so perhaps for those of you born in May, this will be more specific than to others. but also May could be important for other reasons other than your birthday. And I think that's all I have. A lot of this is about self-nurture, learning how to nurture ourselves in order to be emotionally balanced inside. When that happens, we come from a place of peace, or at least a lot more peace inside. Then we're not codependent on other people. Then we don't use control as a means of ensuring safety and security. We're just much more relaxed and therefore much more in tune with our own intuition, or our own Siri, our own compass, if you will. And I think that's all I have. So I hope this was helpful to you. If this makes sense to you in the month of November, I would love to see your comments. I read them always. Thank you so much for liking, for sharing, for subscribing. Of course, if you would like to have a session with me, that information is down below. Thank you again so much. I do this because I love to do this, but without you, I would have no need for it. So thank you so much for your support. I wish you best of luck. Take care of yourself, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.